Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Yoruba Ronu Series. I am Olakuju Ayola. I'll be your host for tonight. We are going to continue with our section from last week, where we'll be talking about global power. We talk about middle power as well as the global south. And we're hoping that with this lecture, you understand that as Yorubas, we have to learn how to play our cards right. And we have to understand the means for survival in this ever evolving world. And I would be here with my co-host, Bakare, who's always here with us every week, as well as Madam Ajoke, who is behind the scene. Unfortunately, we'll have Madam Ajoke Ade with us tonight. And I also have Mr. Jolomi, who will be on space alongside Baba Bakare, who would be moderating your Q&A section. And I will finally introduce to you the speaker for the night, the president of TYF, Are Bolariwa Oladimiji. Are you ready?
Yes. Am I audible?
All right. Okay. All right. Yes, you are.
Okay.
Right.
Can you give me just one moment? I'm
Okay.
trying to direct people to the to the Twitter space.
Just bear with us a moment, everyone. I hope everyone is well, and I hope that today we're able to take a lot of lessons from all these discussions we are having. I mean, you can all see what is happening globally and all the power play that we have all been observing, especially for the last 2 weeks. So we as Yoruba, we need to understand our stance, and we also have to understand how to survive in this very, very ethical world because the world is not fair. It's all about survival of the fittest, and we should know how to align and who to align with. Those are all very important. So I'm hoping this lecture and the one from last week as well will be very, very meaningful to us Yorubaris, and we understand what is at stake for us and how in this particular era we are able to make the best of things for ourselves. So we'll see if Ara is ready now to go and we can start the lecture.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Uh, thank you. I just want to be very sure if I'm very okay. Thank you. It's a wonderful period. It's a wonderful opportunity to be in the free in the face of thousands of people all across the world, listening to the voice of reasoning, where we talk about history, geopolitics, civilization, every day, every week, and every weekend. My name is Oladimiji Balarawa, and I'm the president of Think Yoruba First Organization Worldwide. Um, Today is going to be splendid. And before moving forward, we greet you in the name of Olodumare, the supreme creator of the entire world and um, uh, the entire Yoruba race. Today's topic is extremely critical, and today's topic is a continuation of last week. And if you're just joining us, um, this platform is a platform where we try to raise the intellectual argument, we try to raise the intellectual discourse amongst indigenous Black people, amongst the indigenous, amongst the people, amongst the Black race. We must not make the mistakes of the 21st century. In the 21st century, we lost a big opportunity. And what opportunity did we miss? The opportunity to come in. So in the 21st century, we lost a big opportunity. And what opportunity did we miss? In the 20th century, which was the last century, I'm talking about the century between 1900 to 1999, it was a lost opportunity for the Black race. It was not the Black people, it was not Africa that was colonized. There were many races, especially in Asia, in Latin America, that were also colonized. And some were even erased. But if we compare how the different race, the different continents has fared so far so good. I can say what we Africans have only done is just to survive the last century. And unfortunately, we need to do more apart from surviving. But you look at Southeast Asia, not only as many of them survived, they've also thrived. You look at the Middle East, the Arab-speaking world. You also look at Southeast Asia from Thailand to Japan to Singapore to the Asian countries. It's not that they are not living in paradise, but compare their standard of living, the kind of hope that you can find in those countries is far greater than what we currently have in Africa. Today I will be yes, last week I spoke extensively about the issue of how superpowers operate. I spoke about the different superpowers. I spoke about the middle powers, and I spoke about the global south. Now today I'll be localizing this conversation. And if you're listening to me, tonight's conversation is extremely critical for how we are going to see Africa, for how we are going to see the world, for how we are going to understand the world, and how we are going to engage the world. As I was saying, the last century was a missed opportunity for indigenous Black people. I understand that there were different ideologies that were driving many liberation struggle of Africa. Oftentimes in the 20th century, it was anti-colonial rhetoric. Some were even Marxist, some were even communist, some were even Pan-Africanist, now the world has changed. That is why we cannot continue to look at the ideology. You continue to parrot ideologies like One Africa, Borderless Africa, the kind of ideology, the kind of rhetoric, the kind of populist ideology that was popular in the 20th century is useless in the 21st century. Because in the 20th century, the superpowers then were USSR versus USA. And this there's now in this 20th century, there is no longer USSR. Now we have multiple superpowers. We have multiple regional powers. Last, I'm going to give a kind of chronological so that I can see how much the world has changed. Some people think the world has not changed. They don't even know that the world has changed around them, which is why a lot of our people are still stuck in the Pan-Africanist ideology, in the anti-white, anti-colonial rhetoric. We need to do more than that. We need to look at the world and actually look at the world from the position of our interests so that we do not waste another 100 years chasing after what we will never get. 100 years ago, there was no state of Israel. Israel as a country did not exist. 100 years ago, there was no United Arab Emirates. There was no country called United Arab Emirates. 100 years ago, the existence of Nigeria as a colonial entity post-amalgamation was just it was even less than 20 years. 100 years ago, the world was just still coming out of the First World War. 100 years ago, the major power in the world was the British Empire. 100 years ago, America was not the superpower of the world 100 years ago. So a lot of things have changed in the world within the space of 100 years. 100 years ago, Russia was not a superpower. Russia was just coming from the doldrum of the Bolshevik Revolution, where they destroyed the Romanov dynasty, and they were just trying to build a communist Russia that was suffering from poverty and all sorts of hopelessness. 100 years ago, there was nothing called the European Union. 100 years ago, there was nothing called, there's nothing called state and capital, the 36 states of the Federation. 100 years ago, there was nothing called ECOWAS. 100 years ago, Arab nationalism was a new thing because for 500 years, the Ottoman Empire, which was ruled by the powerful Ottoman Turks, annihilated, erased, and destroyed Arab nationalism and replaced it with Ottomanism and Pan-Islamism. So there was nothing called, in fact, Arab nations were erased from the surface of the earth. Arab did not rule themselves for 500 years, for close to 500 years under the Ottoman Empire. Ancient Arab kingdoms, ancient Arab empires were annihilated and erased 100 years ago. So you should understand that 100 years ago, the world was a different place. And that is why we need to understand how we are going to relate with the world. We must see the world as a continuum. We must stop seeing the Yoruba people as people that have been existing just since within the concept of Nigeria. We must look at our history for thousands of years of history. That is the way China looks at the world. That is the way the Germans look at the world. That is why you look at Western civilization, they look at the world from the position of the Greek civilization. They see the Greek civilization, they see the Roman Empire as the extension of Greek civilization. That is the way we have to look at the world so that we can understand that we are not nascent, we are not babies, we are not juveniles in world geopolitics and world civilization struggle. So I've been able to lay a lot of things down, like within 100 years, the world can change. Within 100 years, the world as we know it can totally change. Now, let me give you this instance. Another thing, the new millennium, this new century, called the 21st century, this new millennium, which is millennium 2000 AD, CE, has produced, let me put it this way, 3 official countries that is recognized throughout the world. One, East Timor. East Timor got independence from Indonesia around 2011. South Sudan got independence from Sudan. That is 2 countries. Those are 2 countries. What about the latest country called Somaliland? What about Kosovo? Even though Kosovo is around 1998 to early 2000, I'm still going to put it to a 21st century country. What about Montenegro? We've forgotten that in 2006 World Cup, Serbia and Montenegro was a country. So Montenegro also became a new country in this 21st century. So within our lifetime, there has been almost 4 to 5 brand new country in the 21st century. When people tell you the borders are not changing, don't listen to them. Borders are changing. The world are changing. Now, let me also tell you what has happened in the past 25 years. One, Crimea no longer belongs to Ukraine. Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson no longer belongs to Ukraine. Abkhazia, Ossetia no longer belongs to Georgia. These are the changes that we see in our world. What about in Africa? You look at Central Africa and East Africa. South Kivu, North Kivu, these are resource-rich region of Eastern Congo. It has been annexed and is being self-governed and ruled by Tutsi rebels. And they are running that place like an independent country. And never did not fall. We live in a multipolar world order. The world has changed. We live in a world. We live in this 21st century. There are many powerful families, powerful ruling elites, powerful families, oligarchs, plutocrats, dictators have been impeached, have been removed. Where is Muammar Gaddafi? Where are the Assads? Where is Saddam Hussein? This happened in the past 20, 25 years. Many of us were born. We saw it ourselves. We watched it on television. Where is Omar al-Bashir of Sudan? They're all gone. This is to tell you that a lot of things is happening in our world. The world is changing. Our world is changing. Or let me put it this way, our world has changed. If we understand that our world has changed, we are going to look at the world from a different perspective and from a different point of view. The world has changed, and we need to be careful on how we approach the world, which is why we need to understand what Nigeria is. You look at Nigeria, the world, when you say a multipolar world order, I'm going to break it down. It is a period where we are going to have regional powers instead of a unipolar, totalitarian global power that we had that emerged after the fall of the USSR, which was the United States of America. Everybody is asserting and creating their sphere of influence. Everybody is creating their sphere of influence. We are reverting back into the status quo. The world is reverting back to how it used to be before the Treaty of Westphalia, which gave rise to the period of the nation states. And this is a different world. It's a different world where Asians, the Arabs are also on the table, and the Jews are not victims, and the victims again, and they are also on the table, asserting their power, asserting their influence. We are back in the world where nations are creating regional hegemonic sphere. Everybody is marking their boundaries. I'm going to start from the United States of America. I explained the Monroe Doctrine and the Manifest Destiny. In short, North America, South America, America believes that is their backyard. No external power must be allowed to come near those places. Whether Europe, whether Africa, whether China, whether Russia, they want to have a power. They believe they have the right to assert, to do as they want, as they wish in their axis. That was why the issue of the missile crisis, the happened in the 20th century, almost 65 years ago. America has not forgiven Cuba for their trying to bring nuclear missiles and put it in Cuba and pointing it to the United States of America. That was why they used the entire economic power, their entire social power, the entire geopolitical leverage to totally destroy and annihilate the economy of Cuba and weaponize poverty against the people of Cuba. So you also look, so that is that sphere of influence. So before you can become a global power, you must have your backyard. You must have a backyard that you must control. If you do not have a backyard that you can influence, if you cannot assert your economic supremacy, your military supremacy, your ideological supremacy against your neighbors, you cannot become a superpower. The first step of becoming a superpower is the ability to become a regional power, which is why those that do not understand great power dynamics and great power play are the ones that will be saying, oh, Russia is just a regional power. Every great power became a regional power before becoming a superpower. Now there are regional powers. America cannot land boots in Ukraine. America cannot go into Kazakhstan. America dare not go into Georgia. America cannot go into Belarus. America cannot go into Kyrgyzstan. America cannot go into Uzbekistan. Those are the spheres of Russian power, which Russia is ready to even use nukes, the nuclear option, to defend those territories. So what about Russia? So I've told you that is the Russian backyard. What about China? China has its own red line. And those red line, Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, the South China Sea, Tibet, those are the backyard. Xinjiang region, those are the backyard of Russia, of China. And what is China doing? China is aggressively creating natural islands, artificial islands, across the South China Sea, and arming those places to the teeth. It is army heat, putting missiles, ballistic missiles, into those places because they believe that they must be, because they want to, they see themselves as a superpower, and they must be able to put deterrents and totally control their backyard. That is how superpowers behave. And you also look, so those are superpowers. But something is also emerging. The middle powers are also creating their own sphere of influence, which they control, where they assert their power. So I'm going to give you examples. Turkey. Turkey sees itself as the successor state to the Ottoman Empire. Is it true? Yes, it is true. Because when Turkey, after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, it was Turkey that the IMF, the Western financial institutions, went to and asked the Turks to pay the debts owned by the Ottoman Empire to European bankers, which the new state of Turkey paid up to the 1960s. So Turkey sees itself as the defender of the Turkish people, as the defender of the Turkish civilization, as the defender of the Turkish sphere of influence. What has Turkey done? Turkey created an organization of Turkic states, where you have Turkey, Azerbaijan, you see Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, all these Turkic-speaking people. Turkey created a state where Turkey sees itself as the leader of that pack, of that bloc. And we've seen what Turkey did in the war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Turkey supplied Azerbaijan with logistics, with arsenal, cheap drones, everything they needed, and the geopolitical backup and cover-up, in order and the lobbying power, so that Turkey will be able to defend, where Turkey will be able to defend another Turkish-speaking country, which was Azerbaijan, in their war against the Christian Armenians. and how they were able to use that opportunity to take back Nagorno-Karabakh and technically cleanse the Armenians out of Nagorno-Karabakh in Armenia. Turkey also believes that it is its natural right for it to determine and control the Muslim world. There are three, it used to be two mean for control of the Muslim world. Now we have close to 4 people, 4 blocks fighting for total control of the Muslim world. Turkey, because Turkey believes that the Ottoman Empire can be revived in a different way, that it is the natural right of the Turkish people to control the Islamic world as they did for 500 years before the 1914 First World War. So what happened to Turkey? Turkey is now trying to assert its power in Somalia, in Libya, in Sudan, in Egypt. This is where you see the hands of Turkey. All over the Middle East, in Yemen. Saudi Arabia also believes there was nothing called Saudi Arabia. It is a product of psychic-picot balkanization of the Ottoman Empire, line that was drawn by the French and the British after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. So what did they do? They believe, Saudi Arabia believes that this particular axis, the Muslim world, that it is Saudi Arabia that should control and lead it. They believe because they are the custodian of the two and Medina, Saudi Arabia, with its huge oil wealth, Saudi Arabia believes that it should be the leader of the Muslim world. What about Iran? Iran also believes that it should be the leader of the Muslim world. Why Iran uses the Palestinian cause, anti-American rhetoric, and anti-Jewish rhetoric, anti-Zionist rhetoric to position itself as the leader, as the liberator, as the defender of the Muslims of the world. It's all geopolitics. We also see another one. We see another power that has emerged quietly, which is the United Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates is also punching above its weight. That's itself as the rightful leader of the Muslim world, of the Arab world. What has the United Arab Emirates done? It has been able to show the world that it is more moderate. It doesn't export terrorism. It doesn't export Wahhabism. It is ready to see. It is ready to be it is appealing to the West, not just the West, the entire whole world. That it is the most modernized part of the Arab-speaking world, of the Muslim world. Therefore, it should be the one that should be the leader of the Islamic world. Morocco is also trying to do that. Morocco is also trying to position itself as the real, as a model when it comes to the Islamic nation. When it comes to and everybody have their sphere of influence. So let me tell you now, for instance, you look at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia believes that anything around the Arabian Peninsula, it should be determined by Saudi Arabia. Arabia has been pouring billions right from the 20th century into the issue of the case of Yemen. Firstly, from the partition of Yemen into North Yemen and South Yemen, and the eventual reamalgamation of South Yemen and North Yemen, and the current conflict where Yemen was bringing in mercenaries from Sudan to fight the Houthi rebels. Yemen buying all sorts of sophisticated weapons and bombs to kill their fellow Muslims and their fellow Arabs. Because Yemen wants to assert its power, Saudi Arabia wants to assert its power in that Arabian Peninsula. They do not want an hostile neighbor. They want the person that will be ruling Yemen they want Yemen to be an annex of Saudi Arabia. They want Yemen to be a vassal of Saudi Arabia. It is their sphere of influence because that place is extremely critical for them. For their national security, for their geopolitical power, and for them to have a sphere of influence. You look at Israel. Israel has perfected the art of using might, power, raw power, advanced military weapon, and the ability to build a disciplined military. Because Israel is a militaristic state. It is one of the few countries in the world that can summon 1 million people to go to war. Only few countries on earth can do that. It's not by population. Israel might be just 14 million people. But it's one of the, in fact, Nigeria that has over 250 million people cannot mobilize reserves of close to 1 million people to go to war at any given point in time. And these are not just battle-rusty people. This is the battle-rusty elements. These are battle-hardened elements. The best military in the entire Middle East is Israel. And it has been able to use war to ensure that Egypt is no longer a threat to it. Jordan is no longer a threat to it. Syria is no longer a threat to it. Lebanon is no longer a threat to it. Palestine's Gaza, West Bank is no longer a threat to it. Saudi Arabia is no longer a threat to it. Iraq is no longer a threat to it. And it is by fire, by force, looking for friends and partners and allies in strategic locations and places in the Arab-speaking world and in the Muslim world, because that is where it is located. Even though they are Europeans in their actions, in their outlook. That is why Israel is deepening its ties with Somaliland. That is why Israel is liaising and relating with the United Arab Emirates. That is why Israel has become the friends of the Kurds in Syria, of the Kurdish people in Syria. That is why Israel has become the defender and the friends of the Druze population in southern Syria. That is why Israel has become a friend of the Maronite Arab Christians in Syria, in Lebanon. This is what Israel has been doing. And that is how, because it wants to survive. You cannot have an hostile, a powerful and a hostile neighbor, and you call yourself a superpower. It will surely lead to war. It will surely lead to destruction. You need to have peace. You need to be able to have a good border. That's what Israel has done. That is why Israel is also a regional power. That is why Israel is qualified to be called a middle power. Just like Turkey, just like Saudi Arabia, just like United Arab Emirates. Let's look at India. India has every potential to become a superpower. That is why you see that China continues to empower Pakistan and Bangladesh to ensure that India does not have peace, to ensure that India does not have the rest of mind, to ensure that Pakistan capitulate economically, socially to India, because India is the superpower, is the natural, undisputed superpower of the Indian Ocean. All the superpowers, whether China, whether Russia, whether America, cannot dispute the power of India in the Indian Ocean. You look at what are the spheres of influence of India. India is the one responsible for the protection of Bhutan, for the protection of Nepal, for the protection of Sri Lanka. That is the power of India. Because India has positioned itself as the defender of the Hindus, as the defender of the Hindu civilization. Once you are an Hindu and you are persecuted anywhere in the world, just make sure you get to India. India is going to give you protection. India sees itself as the regional hegemony in that place, and which is why it is being challenged by Pakistan. But we also see what is currently happening, where Afghanistan, the Pashtuns, the Taliban are saying they are never going to be under the shadows of Pakistan. And that is the work of, because India has one of the best secret service intelligence agencies in the world. They call them RAW. It is on the same level as the Mossad, as the CIA. That is how powerful India is. It is a powerful middle power with its own regional sphere of influence, which China is always trying to demystify, always trying to weaken by continue to create problems, trying to make sure that the client states, trying to bully the client states that are on the periphery of the Indian border. I'm talking about Nepal, I'm talking about Bhutan. So you've seen how superpowers behave. Superpowers are superpowers. They are above international law and order. This is what many people are not telling you. Europe, Donald Trump said it. They are above international law and order. We've seen what Trump is doing. That is why the European, the EU, Western Europeans, they want to continue to rouse the entire global South to tell Russia to play by the global rule. Russia is a superpower. He believes in strength. When there is Russia sees Ukraine as an existential threat. Because once Russia loses its geopolitical leverage over Ukraine, Russia will cease to become a regional power. Russia will cease to become a superpower. It will just become a vast country, just a second-rate country with just nuclear weapon. That is the bitter truth. So it is a do or die. Just the way Ukraine is a red line for Russia, that is the way Taiwan, it is a red line for China. Let me also go further, because we need to explain, I need to explain this to a lot of people so that people can understand why things are the way it is. And we do not fall victims of Western propaganda, victims of propagandists, because there are propagandists from all sides, from the Arab world, from the Turkish world, speaking world, from all over. It is only indigenous Black people that do not understand what's going on. Now you look at Western Europe. What has made Western Europe to be a little bit stable? And the powers, when I'm talking about the powers in Western Europe, I'm talking about Britain, Germany, and France, have been able to have a form of armistice agreement. They've been able to have a form of peace, quote unquote peace, was because of the First World War and the Second World War that destroyed Europe. So they've been able to respect each other. And that war was bound to happen. You cannot have superpowers that are next door neighbors, people that are just 1 hour drive to each other. They are within the same spheres of influence. They control the same ocean. They control the same, they are fighting for power. They are fighting for dominance in the same sphere. It was meant, that war was meant to happen. And what they had to do was to create a form of no victor, no vanquished situation in order to have a kind of a peace in Europe. That's why they created things like NATO, things like the European Union, in order to ensure that even though they do not agree on many things, they can at least have a level of synchronization when it comes to their geopolitical and global policies. Because they know that they are not like America to Russia, China to Russia, that are a little bit in terms of where the destruction they can cause to each other, because they are far. That is why you see China. China will never allow Japan to have the kind of military power it had in the Second World War, where Japan took almost 1/3 of the entire landmass of China and became the colonizer of the Chinese civilization. Chinese, the 5,000 years civilization of Chinese. So China understands, and everybody is now defending its base. And that's why America understands. And America is telling the EU, European aristocrats, you've turned your entire military industrial complex. Let me tell you what's happening in Europe. The entire military industrial complex in the Western world is currently producing. It is in a war mode. It is like in a war arena where they are producing guns, ammunition, and other war gears and pouring it into Ukraine. Ukraine is being armed to the teeth. Mercenaries are moving from Western Europe, retired soldiers, and other human resources. I'm not going to speak much on that because of safety, are being mobilized in their tens of thousands, billions worth of gadgets, billions worth of billions of euros, billions, loans upon loans are being pumped from Western Europe into Ukrainian war, into the Ukrainian war theater against Russia. What you are seeing in Russia, the Russian-Ukraine war, is not a war between Ukraine and Russia. No, it is a war between Western Europe and Russia. It was a war that was going to happen. People felt it can be avoided, but some people felt they need to settle it. And they used Ukraine as a case, they used Ukraine as a scapegoat to go and do the dirty work, with the promise that if the Ukrainians are able to sacrifice millions of their people to fight this war, and they get it, they are going to be given European Union membership and NATO membership. That is how dangerous the world is. And we've seen what is happening. Before the war, Russia did not have maximum authority from that axis, from the northern axis of the Black Sea. With the gains of the war, where Russia was unilaterally annexing those places they call conquered regions of Ukraine, they've now had massive gains in the navigation, in the control of the Black Sea, and massive gains in terms of the mineral resources that they get there. I said I'm going to come back and start discussing Africa. It's time to start discussing Africa for you to understand geopolitics. Before coming to Nigeria and telling you the geopolitics of Nigeria, I'll tell you about what is happening in Southeast, in East Africa and Central Africa. The middle power, the Rwanda has become a middle power. Whether we like it or not, Rwanda has become a middle power. And unfortunately, this is where Pan-Africanists are getting it wrong. Rwanda is not a Pan-Africanist institution. Paul Kagame was trained in America. Paul Kagame was trained in the heart of war by America. You see, the Rwandan army was American trained, the discipline, the way they fight. That was why when the jihadists, ISIS, overrun Mozambique, and ISIS was literally annihilating and decimating the people of Mozambique. And they were taking places like Cabo, those regions. It was the Rwandan army that were now sent to go and fight. And within 2 months, they literally exterminated and annihilated the ISIS and their fighters who are in their thousands, and pushed them back and took back the territories they took from the Mozambicans. That is to show you how powerful the Rwandan army is. The Rwandan government army was able to train its proxy militias, which is the M23 rebels, where they annihilated and defeated the Congolese army and took 2 states that are almost 10 to 20 times bigger than the entire Rwanda. I'm talking about South Kivu and North Kivu, and they are still controlling it today, and nothing has been done. That is the power. That is the strength. That is the power. That is the strength of the Rwandan of Rwanda. Rwanda has become a regional power. So anything in central, in Eastern Congo, Central Africa, Eastern Africa, you must consult Rwanda. Everybody has agreed to that. They got that, and you call them a minority. Minority with military power, political power is the majority. Only God can stop Rwanda from dominating that axis of Africa for the next 500 years. That is how powerful they've become. So Rwanda, the Tutsis, the Himas, who are also the current ruler of Uganda, are going to dictate Central Africa and East Africa for the next 500 years, except something changes. And they've aligned themselves with the United States of America. They have aligned themselves with the United States of America. So you also have to look at, thank you. I've been told about my time, but I will also try as much as possible to talk about Nigeria. Oh my God. I didn't know that we have, I didn't know we spent close to 45, almost 45 minutes. And I haven't spoken about Nigeria yet, because we need to understand. I've spoken about the entire world, but we need to understand what is happening in Nigeria. But I will do a quick intro to what Nigeria is. You look at Nigeria, Nigeria is in blocks. It is in powers. Now, many people don't understand, why are the Igbos so aggressive? What is wrong with the Igbos? Why are the Igbos very aggressive and prognosing into the business of the South-South? They are prognosing into the business of the Southwest. Go back into history. Why are they rewriting history? Why are they trying to plagiarize history? Why are Igbo nationalists at war with literally everybody in the South? Why are they this aggressive? But you have to look at what happened in the First Republic. The First Republic, the Igbo intellectuals, they wanted to become the superpower of the entire coast and the entire West Africa. And one of the first things they had to do was to take out the Yoruba race. In the entire West African coast, the biggest and the most powerful race are the Yorubas. Our coastline stretches from Warri to Borno into Togo. No other ethnicity has that level of access to a powerful coastal section. coastal space that is not just rich in oil and gas, it is rich in fish and every other resources. It is the maritime access for many countries in the Sudan, talking about Chad, Libya, Central African Republic, and all these places. So the Igbos wanted to become a superpower. And they lost the Biafran War because they could not live with a change, because the coup, the gains of the coup of Ifeanyi and Nzogu has been crushed with the counter coup led by the likes of Danjuma, Muritala Mohammed, and by the Northerners. So they could not imagine themselves living in a Nigeria where they are not going to dictate state creation, where they are not going to dictate how the constitution is made, where they are not going to dictate the future of the country like they did in the First Republic. So they went to war to settle it, and they lost. And they still believe that they can still, one way or the other, recreate this reality and become a superpower within Nigeria. Because for you to become, for them to become a middle power, to become a regional power, the Yoruba race must be subjugated and annihilated. They must control Lagos. You take Lagos away from the Yoruba people are conquered. You make sure that the Yoruba people are politically and geopolitically irrelevant, that our soft power is destroyed, that our culture does not dominate the South, does not dominate West Africa. We are destroyed. It is a bitter truth. So once you see the social engineering, the kind of efforts they are pouring, the millions, the billions they pour into social media, which is the next big thing in the world currently, it's not by mistake, because they want to be a superpower. Now, what about the Fulanis? The Fulanis, just like the Arabs, they study the Arabs, they study the Turks. This is what the Fulani, in fact, I want to say the Arabs studied the Turks also very well. The Turks studied the Arabs, and they perfected this system, which is pan-Islamism, the weaponization of Islam. They spend pour billions and billions in order to shape people's opinions, to soften the ground for political conquests, for social conquests, for demographic changes, and the ability for the indigenous people not to be able to fight back by weaponizing Islam for their own gain. The same thing is being done. The same thing was done by European colonizers in Hong Kong, in Macau, in Taiwan, in Latin America, in all over the world, even in Africa, where priests, churches were part and parcel of the colonial projects. Religion is a weapon of mass destruction. It can be weaponized. That was what Ethiopia got right. Ethiopia did not allow the Italian, after the Berlin West African Conference, everybody was given a share of Africa. Ethiopia got Eritrea, they got Ethiopia, they got some part of Somalia. And they gave them, so everybody was going to go and take their possession. That was what they did in Berlin, which was organized by Otto von Bismarck, the German chancellor. But unfortunately, when Italians got there, they brought missionaries along. As they were trying to use the sword and guns and bullets and cannons, as of that time, the machine guns, to be able to colonize and conquer the Ethiopians, they found out that these Ethiopians are Christians. These are not people they can call pagans. And all of a sudden, they brought in their Catholic monks, and the Catholic monks were telling Ethiopians that their Christianity is fake. This was why the Ethiopians went to war and chased out all the Italian Catholic monks and chased them out and forbid them from preaching to their people. How dare you? When you guys were pagans, we've been Christians. We are Christians. In fact, our Christianity is far perfect than your Christianity. You not think we are stupid. That we've known how to read and write for more than 1,000 years. You are now coming to come and teach us about Christianity. That was what saved Ethiopia. And Ethiopia domesticated Christianity. So you see Nigeria, you see always, and the Fulanis understand what they are doing. That's why I said, for us to understand Nigeria, you are going to say some things, and you're not going to care about the people that are being trained to try to dampen what we are doing, which is to be able to tell people, oh, forget them, oh, they are tribalists, they are by God. No. Immediately after the Civil War, the first thing the Core North did was to transform their traditional institutions into spiritual institutions. This is what we failed to do in Yoruba land that is causing the tension between the Ooni of Ife and the Alaafin and different Obas. Even though we know there are so many Obas in Yoruba land that have become belligerent, that have become outdated, that have become decadent. Yeah, we know that. But what the Core North did was to transform itself from traditional leadership, traditional institutions into spiritual leaders. Not just in the Core North, all across Nigeria. You did not conquer us. Our Islam is different, but you created an institution being funded by the military junta via the federal government, and you picked one or two saboteurs after centralizing all the resources of Nigeria into the capital, in Abuja, into the central government. And you only picked the Fulanis that led one of the bloodiest jihads that destroyed indigenous leadership. These are the only people that you are allowed to become permanent leaders of permanent leader. And it is not just that you are rotating it. At least you look at the Catholic Church. Sometimes you can have a pope from America. Sometimes you can have a pope from Russia, from a Russian-speaking pope. Sometimes you can have a Polish-speaking pope. Sometimes you can have a Croatian-speaking pope. Sometimes you can have a British pope. Sometimes you can have a Spanish-speaking pope. Sometimes you can have a Portuguese-speaking pope. Sometimes you can have a German-speaking pope. In Nigeria, for a people of over 250 million, they weaponize religion, and only the sons and descendants of Usman and Fodio are going to be your spiritual leadership. How did you do that? This madness started in the 1970s, less than 40 years, just 40-something years ago, so that you can understand geopolitics. And this minority have been able to position themselves quietly into it, which is why ethnic nationalism, they will tell you, oh, they want ethnic identity, they want state of residence to be imposed and indigenship to be destroyed. Here, it favors them because they are empire builders. By doing that, they can be able to ship millions of their people, create demographic changes, and they don't care. It is eternal war because chaos is extremely good for empire builders. Chaos is the last tool of empire builders. And that is why you see them always trying to dictate politics, to dictate religion, to try and sow seed of chaos, sow religious instability into the Yoruba land. That was what the House of Saudi Arabia did for many decades, exporting Wahhabism across the Islamic world in order to counter the Turkey, because they want, and Turkey, in order to counter Turkey and Iran, because they want to prove to be the leader of the Ummahs. This is brutal and dirty geopolitics. Pakistan has always been a tool. It was a tool of the British. It's not a tool of Islamists. If you look at the Saudi Arabian military, it is made up of poor Pakistanis that have been recruited to farm and fight and die for them. If you look at UAE, Saudi Arabia, you are going to see Arabized nomads, people that are as black as charcoal that call themselves blacks, who are essentially the beggar tribe that they've now been transformed into Arabs, and they are now the ones doing the dirty work of this oil-rich Saudi Arabian country. This is the brutal geopolitics you see all across the world, and everybody wants to become a regional power. That's why you mention South. The Igbo nationalists will go all the way and be cursing everybody, even though they do not have the guns and ammunition to dare confront the South nationalists and say there's something called South. You dare not mention Middle Belt. You are going to see people who support the killings of people, who support the destruction of people, who support all sorts of destruction, annihilation of people, who support the lynching of Christians, who support the subjugation of Christians, who support the killing and jailing of atheists, who believe in Sharia in a supposedly secular and pluralistic society, all of a sudden saying that the people they see as inferiors. Kafiris, oh, we are one not. How are you one not? You are one not with people you see as slaves, because they believe they are not speaking from the position of morality, they are speaking from the position of geopolitics. They believe the entire northern region belongs to the Fulani sphere of influence, and they will kill, they will destroy, they will use every means possible in order to control and impose it. That's why we see that all of a sudden there is a governor in Nigeria that was giving billions of naira to Fulani nationalist organization, like in Miyetti Allah, and creating vigilantes for them. To do what? To be terrorizing the whole of Nigeria. So that's the brutal geopolitics going on. The brutal geopolitics is going on. For the Yoruba people, our sphere of influence is basically between 10 to 11 states within Nigeria. 10 to 11, 12 states. And our sphere of influence is from Wari to Gambia, where our people are. That is what Russia does. Near Russia, far Russia. You defend your race. We must be able to defend ourselves. Everybody is doing it. Everybody is saying it. Why won't be able to defend? Why won't be able to defend the right of our people and assert our rights? That is why it is insanity for you to believe because you are from Lagos, you have no business with what is happening with people in Kwara State. It is insanity for you to say because you are a Yoruba man from Ekiti, you have no business with what is happening with the Yoruba people of Ibadan. It is insanity because you believe you are Oyo, you have no business with what is happening about the welfare of the Shekiris. You should understand your politics, which is why it is not the right time for us to allow tribalists in our midst to be bringing out things that will destroy the homogeneity of the Yoruba race. Let Alaafin and Oni and all the others, let them go and sort out their problems in their rooms. Thank God they do not have power. That is why I support the political leaders in Yoruba land are the ones in control of power. So that these people do not drag us back into the days of Kiriji War, of the Owu War, where Owu was annihilated, where we also went into a state of war, like the Banamu War, into civil war. What are we going to benefit from this destruction? When the world, everybody is trying to defend their base, and some of you want to revert into factory setting of primitiveness. I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time. So for this wonderful and brilliant conversation, I can speak for the next 2 hours, speaking about geopolitics and the different how it affects our day-to-day life. Geopolitics affects us. It affects what we do. It affects how we see life. Somebody will say, "Oh, kilo ketiwa pẹ̀lú geopolitics." Àní kí náà rise. Geopolitics affects you. because it is, if we had paid attention to the geopolitics of the 19th century, ìgbà tí wọ́n pín Africa, we are going to raise our hand and be there. The Jews paid attention to the geopolitics of the world. That was when the French and the British, they were busy drawing maps and breaking Middle East into pieces. They were able to send representatives and told and lobbied. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́, ní ẹ má pín o. Ṣùgbọ́n area Palestine, ẹ rọra fún wa ní díẹ̀ ń bẹ̀, a fẹ́ create a state of Israel. That was a state of Israel nìyẹn. The area of Palestine was given to the Arabs and it was given to the French. And àwọn Jews ló gba tí wọn dá last a piece of land. Ẹ mọ̀ báwọn onílẹ̀ ṣe máa ń talẹ̀ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́, wọ́n ta ilẹ̀ kan, wọ́n ta fún èèyàn mẹ́ta. Tí Britain ṣe nìyẹn. Balfour Declaration lẹ́tà yẹn ní Britain làwọn náà mú dání tán fi ń claim pé àwọn ti ralẹ̀ o. So ẹ̀yin mẹ́ta ralẹ̀ wọ́n lọ court, oníkálukú lọ court, oníkálukú lọ gbogbo ẹ̀, and there was a brutal war in order to claim the ownership of that place. Torí pé táwọn Jew ò bá pay attention sí geopolitics bí wọ́n ti ń pín ilẹ̀ kò lè kàn wọ́n. Èèyàn ò wà fún nípa àkàrà nìkan, kì í ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ náà ní kúlíkúlí ẹ̀pà ráìsì nǹkan kan. Ẹ má jogún àwọn ọmọ yín, ẹ má jẹmọ́ ti yín, ẹ má fọwọ́ mẹ́wàá jẹun. You must pay attention. Báwo náà ṣe ń pín Áfíríkà? Torí ẹ̀ báwo ló ṣe kan Yorùbá? Ní táwọn Fúlàní ṣe ní First Republic yẹn náà, Fulanis did a good job. Wọ́n ti bá burúkọ máa ṣe kíkò ní. He went when they were creating, but when Britain wanted to go, after they were fighting for independence, the Fulanis, they were telling British, as you are going, please, our interest in Nigeria must be secured. We don't care about any other thing. Go look at many things. And while they were doing that, àwọn èèyàn tí wọ́n ń ṣàbùtà lẹ́kọ̀ọ́, àwọn lọ́wọ́ òyìnbó náà sọ̀rọ̀ kúlà. Òyìnbó náà sọ̀rọ̀ kúlà. Ahmadu Bello said Nigeria is going to be the grandfather of my great grandfather Usman Dan Fodio. The Igbos are saying the God of Africa that has destined us to rule, has destined the Igbo race to rule Africa. Kí ni Yorùbá ṣe? Nothing. Ó wà bẹ́ẹ̀. Nothing. We did not have no ambition, NFA. No future ambition. Century ànígbà. We are going to be there when our destiny is being determined. I'm going to stop here. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀.
Thank you, Are, for that lecture. Thank you very much. I hope that everyone at home, everyone watching us right now, wherever you are, that you are able to take a lot from this and that you are able to process this and how we Yorubas can come together and work towards our survival for the next at least 1,000 years. So, Baba Bakari, we're going to go into Q&A pretty much soon. I just want to quickly say shout out to our viewers on Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter itself as well. So do you have anyone there, or should we try to answer some questions?
We can take some questions for now.
Okay. All right. Try to pick some people on stage so we can talk, please. So we can engage them, please. But before we go back, I want to ask you.
Please, any question, anybody from the space that want to talk, you can come up. I'll give you the mic, and then you raise up your hand. Okay? Yeah, go on.
So basically, from what discussion with the lecture we just heard now, and we are talking about Yoruba agenda, and that Yoruba don't have agenda. I'm not saying we should discuss all of our agenda here, but right now, what is like a priority right now for you in terms of Yoruba agenda right now? Not in the future, but right now, that is necessary right now.
What we need to have is to have autonomy within Nigeria.
No, I not you. I want Baba first. We'll come back to you. We'll start with Baba. Yeah. I want you to answer what is your point of view. And then we'll go back to it. No. Give me your own. What do you think right now? No, you. I want to hear from you. What is your own?
You see, the way the country has been since the inception, okay, to me, I'm not happy about it. And that's why most of my posts on social media is always like, If you think and you that is unfortunate for any Yoruba man to say or to believe in the saying that we are one Nigeria. It's a totally unfortunate statement to make. We are not one Nigeria, and we all know it. So why the hypocritical attitude about it? It's about our leaders waking up and calling and asking. You see, as I said, I give it to the Fulanis very well. I give it to the Northerners. I mean, just this last year, Kuti Bodun Consona, when the tax bill was introduced, a senator from that region came up. Kuti Eka, he didn't bother to read. We didn't even know he hadn't read it. You know, he was asked on channels, okay, with all this, have you read this? Have you read this? The contents of this bill? No, I haven't read it. But all I know is that it's not going to be favorable to the North. That is how leaders talk. That is how leaders speak. So in a situation like that, how many Yoruba senators spoke out? Nobody, not even one. How many of them put the House of Rep? None of them. You see, if not for TYF and other conservative bodies that came up to scream against the deputy speaker, none of our people spoke. All our people, only in the Senate, in the House of Rep, they all kept quiet like they don't know what's going on about that bill, where you'll be issuing indigeneship to any Nigerian if you had stayed 10 years in any place. Who says you're interested in going to another region? They are okay wherever they are. So it is that that freedom for us to be able to have our own thing our own way and do it in our own way only olujemini koko olujemini loglogunju, which I think Are was about diving into.
Okay,
Èmi ò
so
ọ̀rọ̀ nàìjíríà ò tiẹ̀ kàn mí rárá ń sọ lọ́wọ́ tàwa yìí because wọ́n ti fẹ́ pín wa moralize gan wọ́n ti fẹ́ pín wa jẹ tán. But if we are able to have our own system of running things, we are not saying we are breaking away from Nigeria, right? Let Nigeria remain. But kàn tiẹ̀ fi wálẹ̀ ká ṣe nǹkan títí wa. Even if we make mistake, let us make mistake. We will learn from the mistakes, right? Because ọmọ tá a bí náà tá a sọ pé try kó gbẹ́sẹ̀ tó bá ti ń gbẹ́sẹ̀ tán àwọn gbókè slow down, stop. So let us do things the way we wanna do it because we don't have the same vision. Ọmọ òbejì kan tàbí láti inú kan gan wọn ò ní kádàrá kan náà. So that is just my own view and that's my take to the question you asked. Thank
all
you.
right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And welcome, Madam Ajoke Ade. I already said you might not make it tonight or you won't be here tonight, but thank God you made it here.
I think I
Um,
actually missed only 5 minutes.
I actually didn't notice. Sorry about that.
I
But
know.
so what I got from you, from what you said here, is completely different to what I said. What the first thing you said that strike me, which is a very good point, is the awareness, the Yoruba awareness that we are Yoruba. I saw something earlier before we started the live on Twitter, where one of Yoruba Ronu nationalists or Yoruba nationalists, shall I just say, was complaining about a Yoruba lady who posted the Yoruba wedding and she tagged it as Nigeria wedding. And she was complaining that the other ethnic group would have identified it as their own because all these things are online, they're recorded, they're documented. So what you're saying there about the fact that we being able to proclaim our identity within Nigeria should not be a big issue is a very important point. It's something that needs to be looked into. So I'm going to also ask Madam Ajoke Ade before I go to the question that someone sent to us, which is actually quite it's quite similar to what I just asked. So Ma, the question is for you, not in the future. We're not talking about the future because we're not going to show all our cards. Yeah. What
Okay.
is your own Yoruba agenda? What do you think your Yoruba agenda is?
Sincerely, I'm actually close to what Baba Bakari has said.
Okay.
Uh, because for me, we're actually not Jekalo Destiny one Nigeria. I just see as on weekday that is not who is what is going on in Yoruba land is not what it's supposed to be. I mean, ni Ilewa, anybody can do whatever they want. They can talk rest anyhow. We cannot command what we're supposed to command on our fatherland. We are in Nigeria, Feko Nigeria, no secession, but I mean, we should be able to control our space. Oyeki, anybody or any other ethnic group, they can mix around in our politics. They don't have anything to do there because it's local. Politics is local. So I mean, Konikaluku mount territory one. But the way Nigeria is now, ah, come on share anything, Onikaluku can share anything, tofe, lori lewa. That's why somebody will have got. Láti sọ fún wa pé Lagos is no man's land. Who dare
All right.
that in some places in the north? Yeah. Elekeji, what I'm actually not happy about in Nigeria is this NYSC overthrow. I don't really. It's a system that is really we are at advantage in this NYSC of a program. Over at disadvantage for because mostly our omotitiwa, they're taking them to the north. I mean, bringing orders to our own space. Then by the time to Shaitan, how to take Google space to account occupy. So this program, yeah, it's actually not a good program that I think to favor our Yoruba. I mean, let me stop there. A lot, as you said, we have a lot, but then these
Actually,
two, it's not really, yeah.
All right. So you don't want that to be part of your agenda, basically NYC. So that is your opinion. I just
100%.
remember. Okay.
And
So
if it's going to be, then it should be okay. Omo ento Aleko on Losogun State, on Losoyo State. It should be between Yoruba land. That's it. That will be my own
okay.
for now.
All right. All right. Quickly, please contribute, chip in. Let us have your say before we start answering questions.
I've said it. It's just we need state police, regional autonomy. That's all.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I have
So
somebody coming up
I
now.
have a question. Sorry, sir.
Someone has come up on the
Yeah.
on the
Okay.
screen.
All right. After we answer one question from our comment session on the other platform, and then I'll let you have the stage. So, all right, this question is from someone on Facebook. It's from a Mr. Fredison Kelechi Ofonagoro, and is asking you that he said he wrote, "I have a question. Hope you don't mind. What is your take on the ongoing tribalism we are facing in Nigeria? Just need to know this in terms of progression. Thank you."
There's no tribalism in Nigeria. What you have is nationalism. There's different ethnic nations that are fighting for power and resources. You've taken all their taxes to Abuja. You've taken all the control of the oil and gas, gold, diamond to Nigeria, to Abuja. He who gets the key to Abuja will determine the destiny of all of us. So what has happened is Abuja, and we've seen what some ethnicities have done because they controlled Abuja for many years due to their years in the military. So everybody now understands that Abuja is extremely critical for our survival. So what you now have is nationalism. Even at state level, you look at what the Ebira people are doing currently in Kogi State. People that are just up to 5 local governments are using the state's resources to empower and create and trying to create a small Rwanda and turning themselves to the power player in Kogi State, which is never going to end well. It's not going to end well in Kogi State. So that's the situation of things. So what you have is nationalism. You look at what is happening in Rivers, where you are even seeing that Ijaw people, Ijaw leaders in Rivers are supporting Fubara because they believe that it is the turn of the Ijaw people to spend 8 years. After the agreement between him and Wike, because of political expediencies, it is what politics wants, it is what politics determines. So this is how politics works. It is not emotion. This is how a country like Nigeria works, which is why many people have said, let us have true federalism. If we don't have true federalism, fiscal federalism, restructuring of Nigeria, we're going to kill ourselves. We are going to fight wars in order to be able to determine who gets to Abuja. We saw what happened during the last election, where people transferred over 300,000 PVC from Southeast to come and determine the political action outcome of Lagos. And people in Abia were saying we must capture Lagos. Capture Lagos as what? So that is the reality we currently face. So what you have is nationalism. There is no place on earth that practices the kind of democracy, have a system of government in Nigeria we have in Nigeria, where it is winner takes all. As far as to who captures the state government house, or when it is a multi-ethnic state, or who captures the who captures Aso Rock, that would impose their religion, that will impose their identity, that will impose money, that would control enormous power. So there's nothing called tribalism. This is not tribal. This is survival. It is survival. We must stop this unrealistic posturing by thinking that one way or the other human beings are good people. No, that is why you look at United. Don't go and look at most multi-ethnic countries. Look at China, Russia. Russia, that is even 70% Russian ethnicity, determines they are the majority in Russia. But go and look at the minorities have their republic, where they have their own president, their own prime minister, in their own. Go and look at the United Kingdom. That's what they have. They understand the ethnicity, the ethnic component, and the reality of the country. But Nigeria is living a lie. Fanatical, chaotic, and colonial agents are the ones that design this system we are using. For their own hegemony, they are using our for experimentation. They are ready to negotiate Nigerian unity. They want to kill as many dissidents as possible to keep a lie. And that's why when I said it is a lie. Let us continue. Let us have ethno-linguistic federalism. The reason why the coup of 1966 led by Nzogu and Fiojina failed was that Igbo soldiers went to Arewa leaders and spared their own leaders. And they're now sermonizing, telling everybody, we should not forget about it, let's about one Nigeria. It shows you, that's an example. You don't need to, the thunder don't need to strike you twice to know that Nigeria is an ethnic country. There are some red lines. Don't cross it. We don't create melting pots. It is not going to end well. It is going to implode. Yugoslavia, USSR, even Ireland versus United Kingdom. It's going to implode. That's why you see these melting pots detribalize and their Pan-Africanist allies and all these Pan-Islamists. They believe in the use of violence to be spilling the blood and be using that as using violence, guns, bullets, sword as a means of social cohesion. That's why there is a religious leader. I know the people listening are going to know what I'm talking about. He doesn't even speak about the insecurity and the killings, the banditry in his region. Anywhere it goes to, the government needs to ban social media. The government needs to ban social media because that is their own sadistic thinking. They believe in graveyard peace. They still believes that in the use of sword as a means of nation building. In a multi-ethnic country where you do not have, they do not have there are huge sentiments. If not that President Tinubu that is trying to make sure that people that have been unjustly arrested, unjustly kept in prison, unjustly like the Ogoni people. Yes. You look at Southern Kaduna and Northern Kaduna, almost 50-50 Christian Muslim. But because of the Northern Muslims have been able to hijack power, They refused to allow the Christians to get into power. The day Patrick Yakuwa got into power, what happened? He died mysteriously in a plane crash a few months later. So you understand that this is not tribalism, this is nationalism. This is war. Because the structure, Nigeria has not defined itself. We are lying into each other. Some people are using our life for social experiments, and we allow them. Because what has never happened, the only place Christians and Muslims are living together in peace within the same ethnicity is in Yoruba land. It does not exist anywhere in the world. It is an outlier. I don't think Yoruba land will be used for the whole of Nigeria. No. Our cultural values, our ethos, our civilization is different. We've seen Nigeria is fighting jihadists. Nigeria is not fighting Cameroonians. Nigeria is not fighting Sudanese. Nigerian army is fighting Nigerians in the north. They are fighting Muslims who hate democracy and want to import theocracy through the use of guns and bullets. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Are. Babakari, can you please bring up the speaker? Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
we just lost. You can go on. We just
All right,
lost
okay.
the
All right, I'll continue then. This is a shout out from Mama Dabiri. Ekalema, Are, she's saying hello to you. Hello, Are, are you there? Hello? Is it muted? Hello? Baba, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm there.
Yeah, Are, you have a shout out from Mama Dabiri. Before I move forward, just giving a shout out first.
Yes.
So there's another contribution here, and well, I don't entirely agree with it, but I don't know if you want to contribute to that. So I'm going to show you. This is from Twitter. It's from Madam Ajoke Adeni. So she stated that when other ethnic leaders has their own ethnic agenda, Awolowo never had one. He forgave his enemies. Sorry, what is your contribution to this, please? All right, are you present? Are you there? Hello, can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me, Ashley? Am I audible? Bakari, can you hear me?
I hear you, yeah.
Yeah, all right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't know. I'm not sure if you can hear me. And I think it's okay. Can you please, do you have any contribution to this statement, please? There's so much noise in the background. Hello? All right, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I am here.
Yeah, so
Yes.
do you have any contribution to the statement? Or do you want to move on?
Nothing. Let's move on. I don't want to say anything.
Okay, I don't agree with. Okay, all right. So Babakari, are you ready, or should I? Are you ready? I can't hear you, sir. You're muted, sir.
Check your chat, please.
Okay. All right. Okay. So before I go further, so Are, you've stated that priority right now is autonomy within Nigeria itself, and that we need state police.
Yeah.
And we also need to have autonomy, yeah, and state police. Basically, that's what you said. But there's also one question I want to ask, which is something I said to Babakar earlier because of one of the suggestions he made. I talk about the awareness. What is your opinion on how aware Yoruba are now, right now, about the situation within Nigeria, about their identity as a Yoruba first before they are Nigerian? How far do you think this awareness have gone so far from your own point of view?
Firstly, we must be very patient, and we must take things very calm. Being Yoruba first, it's not a form of ethnic chauvinistic ideology. It is an ideology to bring cohesion amongst the Yoruba people. Yoruba, and which is why one of the missions of CYF is to reach out to every other group that we share the same Oduduwa civilization. That we have a chance of building something great and surviving with of Nigeria if we are within the same socio-political and socio-cultural bloc. So thinking Yoruba first is basically whether, because we are religiously heterogeneous and some heterogeneous. Some Yorubas are in the north central, some Yorubas are in the south, some Yorubas are in the southwest. So it is what our cohesion is actually built in thinking, understanding that our Yoruba identity, because when the Jews were scattered all over the world, it was the ability for them to think Jews first, whether it was a practicing Jew or an atheist, an agnostic Jew, or a non-practicing person. In as much you have Jewish blood in you, you belong to the Jewish community of practice, you are Jew, you are a Jew. So the same thing has happened to the Yoruba people. How do you talk to the Yoruba people in Ogori Magongo, who the Yoruba identity has been relegated, even though they are Yorubas, and their tribal identity has now been legalized using state power? So we have to understand all these little intricacies, which is why it is extremely critical for us to understand the. So the current situation is extremely great. We've seen a lot of Yoruba content. Our youth, people within the age of in their teenage years, in the to 20s, are now creating content in Yoruba. It was not like this 5 years ago. So there's a resurgence. Can proudly say I'm Yoruba. People are no longer being bullied, being silenced for being Yoruba again, because it was a taboo to say you are Yoruba in the social media space of Nigeria for the past 20 years. It was even a taboo for you to show your Yoruba identity too much. Censored by powers that be. You know, the Yoruba soft power is the most powerful soft power in the entire southern part of Nigeria. Even in Nigeria, our music, our food, our language is the most powerful in the entire coast. So some people have been able to build a buffer towards it by criminalizing it and saying it is tribalism to speak Yoruba. It is tribalism to act Yoruba. It is tribalism to think Yoruba. We even had someone who I don't want to call the person a buffon, who actually was using, who says he's Yoruba, but was using Yoruba hate as a political means of campaigning to get votes. In the most powerful Yoruba city state in the 21st century, was using it, saying, I don't think in Yoruba, and was openly saying it. Because the statements of that like that have been said for the past 10, 20 years, and nothing has happened. So he didn't expect a pushback. He didn't expect his political currency to be battered, shattered, and totally smashed the way it happened to him. So he learned a bitter lesson. So because he learned a bitter lesson, everybody has learned their lesson now. That the Yoruba identity, because the Yoruba, what Islam is to the Fulanis is what the Yoruba identity, the Yoruba currency is to the Yoruba people in Africa. What Christianity is to the Igbos, to the Middle Belt, is what Yoruba identity is to us. If I chose to be Muslim first, I would never have a seat at the table in the Arab world. If I chose to be Yoruba first, then I know I have a pathway to become a superpower. Within Nigeria, I know if the Yoruba people vote for me, I'm capable of getting 6 to 7 million votes if they vote en masse. But if I go and do a Muslim Christian first, I can only get maybe 2 million, 3 million votes for my Christian Yorubas. So I've lost the remaining 3 million. So from a political point of view, it is suicidal. It is madness. It is crazy for you to go and be doing religion first. You are going to be politically destroyed. Because why should you go and become a junior partner to another bloc that uses Islam as a political currency, where you can use ethnicity as a political currency and become another superpower in your own land? It is political insanity. It is lack of political intelligence for you to choose the path of being an Arabist, of being an extremist within the politics of Nigeria. So it is thinking Yoruba first or embracing Yoruba nationalism. It is not a flex or I'm just doing it. People like Yoruba. It is for our own political survival. I don't know who understood it. And when the Abiola got it late in his life, he understood it. What the Pomolowo got to understand. That if you like, give billions to the NSCIA, they will throw you under the bus. It is the Yoruba people that went to, even though they are trying to say, yeah, I want some people also, ethnicity also fought in June. So all these, funny people. But who created OPC to go and fight for Abiola? It's not the Yoruba people. Both Christians and Muslims and traditionalists coming together to fight for a Yoruba Muslim whose wife was assassinated by the brutal state machine of the northern hegemons. So it's we are really happy with what we are currently. Many of you can now write Yoruba things and you are getting 1,000 likes, 2,000 likes. They about tried 6 years ago, go send to marry you now. Your fellow Yorubas will jump and pass. If you are defending your Yoruba people, why are you cursing Yoruba women? It is your fellow Yoruba that will come under it and say, hey, it does not matter. If you want select, we don't do that. That is no longer, those inappropriate behavior is no longer tenable again in the social media space. Why do you think the woke ideology was, apart from university, where it was spread through universities, social media was contributed to the spread of woke ideology 60 to 70%. The media. So we are so happy with currently where we are getting to, and that is why the Think Yoruba First as an institution, we're working hard for the institutionalization of Yoruba ideology and identity, not just as but the institution and modernizing it to fit into the current world.
All right, thank you so much, Harry. We have a question from Facebook again, and this one will be from Mr. Abiodun Okoyemi Matthew. And his question, he stated, good evening, Harry. I have a question for you, sir. The co-colonial mandate given to the Fulani by the British in Nigeria, do you think it will be effective if Nnamdi Azikiwe didn't align with the North to form a parliament in the First Republic.
Can you repeat? Okay, let me read. Okay. Yes, it could have scattered, and that would have been what could have scattered. Nigeria would have divided in the First Republic. That is why the existence of Nigeria would not have been possible without the help of the Igbos. So when Peter Obi said, "Now we be the Nigerian pass," so I know what he was talking about. They literally, I don't want to say some things on here. They literally sacrificed the rest of us for the existence of Nigeria. There is no Nigeria without the Igbos. They ensure the creation of this. That is why they I don't know, they were very instrumental. Nigeria would have gone the way of India as quick as possible. Because what happened in India was that Mahatma Gandhi was ready to give in to the Indian Muslims, Pakistanis, and let them have huge political power when they were in the minority in India. So when Mahatma Gandhi was trying to be politically correct, what happened to him? Mahatma Gandhi was taken, I don't want to say some words on here, by nationalists, Hindu nationalists. But in the case of Nigeria, Nnamdi Azikiwe pushed all of us into a big mess. He was literally manipulated. He was pressured to do what he did. But that's how colonialism works. They will have something on you that will make you play with them and play the hardball. So I hope I've been able to answer that question.
All right, thank you, Ari. Thank you very much.
Because there was no way the Fulanis would never have agreed to be in an equal and equitable Nigeria built on ethno-linguistic federalism, where the Middle Belt minorities are free, where the South minorities are free. They will never. The criteria for the Igbos aligning to be the Igbos intellectuals, them aligning themselves to be in Nigeria, was on two things. The ethnic minorities of the South must never be free. Then they crushed it. They destroyed the Ogoja, Cross River, Ijos. They crushed it. So when the Ijaw people took up arms against the government of Aguiyi-Ironsi, took up arms against the government of Aguiyi-Ironsi, they were ready to die. They were the first official, even though the Fulanis, the Fulani aristocrats were the first who wanted to secede out of Nigeria. They used the threat of secession to get more leverage within the Nigerian Federation. And the Nigeria is a British project. The British gave up Madagascar, gave Madagascar to the French in order to get the Kanem-Borno Empire and add it to Nigeria, to northern Nigeria, to create this Nigeria we see. So a lot of people need to understand how Nigeria was created, to create an overwhelming Afro-Islamic civilization called North over the rest of Nigeria. And they used the over-ambition of Igbo intellectuals who thought they could, one way or the other, battle it through and become the ruling class in Nigeria. It's backfired. That's what they've always done. So Nigeria would have gone the way it's supposed to go to. That's why we need to have Nigeria's case is beyond ADC, Labour Party, APC, and everything. The kind of conversation and what we need to do peacefully is why we are seeing cases where terrorists of northern extraction are writing letters to your state that they are going to come and invade and be wiping people out of their homes. In Kano, terrorists are currently writing letters to farmers to be paying levies in a country that has, Tolo Batonijoye. We just want to paper over the cracks, and one way or the other, we believe our sorrows will go. Congo has been one of the worst countries on the surface of the earth for the past 60 years. See the way they are dancing at the AFCON tournament. You think they have no problem at all. Tonto Joya. There is a bitter truth. Palestine that does not, I'm sorry to say this. Palestine that does not even have a recognized country in the world. They are also playing football and they are doing well in football. So don't think that some people are currently destabilizing Nigeria. You think it's going to stop some of these social activities and these distractions from going on. They won't stop it. Which is why we have to understand, what do we want in Nigeria? We must not be dragged into this abyss because we might not get out of it. Look at what Arab nationalism has done to the Kurdish people in Iraq. What it coalesced in the problem. Look at what Arab nationalism has done to the Druze and the Kurdish people in Syria. What's it batting? Look at what Arab nationalism has done to the Maronite Christians in Lebanon. They've put them into trouble. Look at what Arab nationalism did to the Southern Sudanese, to the Dinkas, to the Darfuris. They destroyed their lives. If you have crazy neighbors in a conundrum like Nigeria, they can drag us into hell with them in the name of national unity. Maybe we don't understand the unitary system of government. The unitary system of government means there will be, if one area is suffering from feudalism, it will spread to the rest of Nigeria. If one area is prosperity, it should spread. That's the ideology. If one area is suffering from terrorism, religious intolerance, it will spread to all over Nigeria. Because their own, all this diabolical, they believe, there shouldn't be something called a George. And there should be something called a George. Kill a George. Are we the same? So Nigeria should have been a union, a federation. And that is what it's surely going to be. That's why you've now seen that some component powers in Nigeria are also lobbying, they are lobbying superpowers and middle powers. If we are not careful, Nigeria will become a battle zone. The Afro-Asiatic civilization, the Sokoto Caliphate, the Borno Empire, and its allies, vassals, are so entrenched into the Arab world, into Turkey, and that is where they are getting inspiration, and to try to determine the political outlook and future of Nigeria. The same thing you also have in Nigeria. You also have in some parts of the places in Nigeria. Yoruba you are not connecting, you are not looking for how to be able to create a powerful geopolitical bloc. You start saying all sorts of terrible things. can't even think beyond the ordinary. You are not thinking about how are you going to position the Yoruba race into this century. Ìyẹn ọ̀kan ẹ̀yìn. When you see what the effort, you see Peter Obi in Vatican City. You see him donating billions, millions, millions to Catholic institutions. Because the Igbos they are also having the acting tanks. They want to insert themselves into Catholicism. Because it is raw power. And Yorubanism is also power. It is power in South America. It is power in Central America. It is power in North America. It is power in Sierra Leone. It is power in Gambia. It is power in Australia, in Ghana. We can see it. But we don't know how to harness this power because we are indisciplined. I'm sorry, I'm using strong words. So I hope I've been able to answer that question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Are. I just want to say a shout out to Mr. Adeyemi, who was agreeing with Baba Yagaban's, no, not Baba Yagaban, Madam Ajoke Ade's stance about NYC. So thank you for joining us on TikTok. I have one more thing to share before we finally close. If there's anyone that want to speak on stage before we on Twitter space before we close now, we're sorry earlier we had a technical glitch, so the space went down. So if anyone wants to speak, we have a few more minutes to go. But before that, I'm going to read out this contribution from someone on YouTube, and it aligned with what you just said here, Are, and it's aligned with the question I've been asking all night about Yoruba awareness. So this is from I don't know if it's a Mr. or Miss JB4577, and he or she stated, we also need to discuss better economic practices as a people. Yorubas have the most purchasing power in Nigeria, but we don't act like it. Dora, do you have any contribution to this?
Yeah, that's on point. I don't want to say anything. It's true. We'll get it better. We'll get better.
Okay. All right. So I just want to say that for me personally, I feel like we've come a long way in terms of the awareness as Yoruba, but I was hoping that with the sense of danger that we have around us at the moment in Nigeria, I feel like there should be a sense of togetherness within Yoruba community. And I don't know if we have that. I'm not sensing if we have that. And I'm hoping that we Yorubas will be vigilant, like you said. There's time for everything. There's a season for everything. I know right now we just passed the festive season where everybody was having a good time. But while some people within Yoruba land were having good time, some people were sleeping with their eyes wide open because they are concerned and they're worried because of the insurgency that we are currently experiencing in Nigeria. So I want to ask you, Babakari, what is your opinion on this? What do you have to say regarding us finally coming together in terms of all the issues we are facing right now within Nigeria that we need to be more vigilant and alert? What do you think? What is your point of view? What have you seen from Yoruba in general? Am I wrong, or am I on the right track in terms of that we're not very proactive and we're not taking a lot of things seriously? So I want to hear your opinion, and I also like to hear Madam Ajoke Ade after you finish.
Okay. Regarding our preparedness and seriousness regarding the attacks from left and right, front and back on our space in Yoruba land, we have some people, we I'm always very grateful that this conservative group that came up few years ago has done a lot of good in changing the mindset of Yorubas. These days, as I said, things Yoruba take for granted before, we don't take it anymore. As one of our adage said, proverbs that òṣìṣẹ́ ló máa ń ṣe teacher fún èṣìṣẹ́. Tí tá a bá ti sọ́wọ́sowọ́pọ̀, ìyá ló máa ń jẹ ọmọ jù tó wá ti dánìkan rìn. So Yorubas these days now, at least I can say for the last 1 year, we have seen cohesiveness, in fighting against, in rising up against or speaking against all these issues that are burning, in Nigeria. Previously, let's even say a decade ago, it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this. It's a very sad situation that when you talk about Yoruba, an average Yoruba person will come and attack you because an average Yoruba man loves Nigeria. They believe so much in the vision of Nigeria because that's what our fathers gave to us. But they too, would I say they were naive and didn't know that um, ọ̀rẹ́ ọ̀dẹ̀númọ́ àbábá máa ń ṣàǹpù wò yẹn pé káàkiri ọ̀rẹ́ ní báyìí nìkan ló kù, right? Àwọn bàbá wa ń gbà wọn mọ̀ pé gbogbo ìkànnì wá ẹ̀ à ń ṣe kan nínú ọkọ tí wọn tó á ti parí ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn tán wọn á padà lọ sínú yàrá wọn máa yín mú sí Yorùbá tó fi di pé ẹni wọ́n fi ń gbé di pépà advert jáde nínú pépà pé over his dead body wọlé Yorùbá máa ń rule Nigeria. So later lọ wá ṣẹlẹ̀ sí yí àwọn èèyàn díẹ̀ but how to attack those things was still not known to us until tí àwọn ẹgbẹ́ conservative bíi tiwa yìí táwa dìde, and we thank God for calling us, giving us this our own dispensation with the way he has been talking to people, speaking to them, and everybody is having this awareness now. Wait, look, kó lórí dúró ẹ̀mú ló kù ń sin lọ́rọ̀ Nàìjíríà o, because a particular group alone cannot just stand and be controlling the destinies of 200 million people. Kí ló dé? So òjò ló tó fi kó yẹlé mọ́ adìyẹ, understand? So we as Yorubas, we just have to do more. Kì í kéré nídìí nǹkan ẹ̀, right? That's what Yorubas are trying to do now. Wait, look, as it is in Nigeria today, ó lè fi búrẹ́dì kó wà lómi ọ̀bì jẹ mọ́. Báyẹn sọ̀rọ̀ táyé ń pariwo táà ń ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ yìí, ó lè máa work lénìí, ó lè pa àwọn agan ló máa gbádùn gbòkì níwọ̀n yẹn, ṣùgbọ́n ní dákẹ́ ni. And I think if I'm not going to make a mistake, I will just try to paraphrase it. One of the great American leaders also only if you cannot walk, if you cannot walk, àbí àwọn kan get kìnìún ẹ̀kọ́ rẹ̀ lé ààrẹ àbí only crawl. I think that should be Martin Luther, right? Ló sọ̀rọ̀ yẹn. If I'm yeah. So Yorùbá gbọ́dọ̀ dúró sójú kan, àgbọ́dọ̀ dúró ní ogun tó ń bọ̀ wọn àbá wa. Ká move, because a thousand journey start with just a step. So nǹkan tí máa kàn rọ àwọn yẹn wá ni because the way that we take ọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá tẹ́lẹ̀, àgbẹ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá ti sẹ́gbẹ́ kan, we took Nigerian matter as priority. Bẹ̀rẹ̀ ọ̀tá tó wá rí sí pé ọ̀rọ̀ Nàìjíríà tẹ́gbẹ́ kárí kò pay wa, kò favour wa, ṣe náà kàn jí gbogbo nǹkan wa lọ àti ọrọ̀ wa àti ohun ajé wa àti ilẹ̀ wa gan-an. Tọ́n bá gbà kán fi òfin gbà, wọ́n á fi mànáfíkì wọ́n fi gbà wọn lọ́wọ́. It's one country, let them be free. Ẹ jẹ́ kó máa kó màálù wọn rìn kiri. Yet gbogbo màálù tá à ń kó rìn kiri tá fi ń pa àwọn tó ń bóbìnrin sùn tipátipá tó ń pọ̀ ọmọdé tó ń pàgbà. Nigeria is now among the first 40 countries in the world that produces beef in the world. Even the beef that produce gan kò tó wá jẹ lọ́dún. So why then do we have to keep killing people? Why do we have to keep destroying people's farm and crops? Why do we have to keep putting people's lives in danger? Àwọn tó ń ṣe kíní wọ̀nyí wọ́n ti gbé kalẹ̀ pé ibì kan náà kó gba ọ̀ràn wọ̀nyí sí. Bẹ̀tí ìwé ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ nítorí pé ẹ̀yin ní agenda ti yín tẹ̀fí the way that's the only way you can move into all these places and destroy people and take over their lands. So Yorùbá máa dìde ọlá ní sinmi. Mo yín sọ̀rọ̀ sí àbúrò mi ń pè mí láti Ìjẹ̀bú. Mo ní ìwòjẹ́ sọ fún mi, mo ní bí àwọn máa pè mí sí wọn tẹ̀tẹ̀ àti pè mí pé mo busy. Mo ní kí nìyẹn, mo ti send link sí ó wò lọ ní ẹgbọ́n mi ẹ̀ sọ fún mi pé lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ bílẹ̀ wà tẹ́lẹ̀ náà. Mo ní bó eré nìyẹn o. So people are getting awareness and nobody listens to the messages of this conservatism, especially from TYF tí wọn kì í take ọ̀rọ̀ serious. Many people ní ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn dùn lọ́kàn ṣùgbọ́n wọn bọ́n máa gbé jáde. Ó dàbí ọkùnrin tó rí obìnrin tó nífẹ̀ẹ́ ni àti bá sọ̀rọ̀ tó jẹ́ pé ọkùnrin jẹ́ nítorí pé wọ́n á ń tijú. Kò ní mọ owó yìí máa gbé ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn kalẹ̀, kò ní that confidence láti lọ bá obìnrin pé arábìnrin mo lè nífẹ̀ẹ́ o, jẹ́ ká yà wọn ṣọ̀rẹ́. But the way it is now, tí a ti ní àwọn ìbí ààrẹ, tí a ti ní other conservative groups. Okay, ìgbà tí America pọ̀ ń bọ̀ Nàìjíríà pé They are not even say they are coming to bomb now. They are coming to bomb the people that are killing people, these terrorists. You see, the whole Nigeria came lit up. People now have that audacity, that boldness. Àwọn tó ń lè sọ̀rọ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ gan wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀. They come jọ ilé ti pọ̀ jù náà ìjọba gan lè gbà àwọn àṣebi táwọn ti dáwà ti rí ìgbàlà máa sá lọ. So people have seen now that people that will have groups that are bringing these messages to the core. Tó ń pariwo yẹn, tó ń ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀. And the more we keep talking about it, the more people getting facts from us, the more they will begin to understand that àwọn ní option. Jọ̀kan gbé ọ̀rọ̀ Nàìjíríà kan gbé kalẹ̀, kan gbé ti Yorùbá sórí. And by doing that, we'll make a lot of progress. We might even achieve this dream within the next 1 or 2 years. Báyìí ń bá lọ yìí. Ọlọ́run ràn wá lọ́wọ́. Ẹ ṣeun.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. We've gone beyond time now, and I guess it's time for us to close the show. I want to say thank you to everyone listening to us right now. Thank you for joining us as always, every single week. We hope to see you next week at this time in good times and also with sound mind. We hope you won't be missing, and we hope you won't find none of your family members will be missing or be in danger at this present moment that we are in, because it's a very delicate time. We hope to all see you here, and we also hope to be here with you as well, with health and with sound mind. Thank you very much, everyone. Once again, thank you for the support, and thank you for spreading the Yoruba message and awareness across Yoruba land and beyond. And we hope to see you again, like I said earlier, next week. So, Odaru, Ujatirari.